The traffic signal turned crimson as Leonardo DiCaprio's vehicle came to a halt on a tranquil New York thoroughfare. He anticipated nothing more than completing his journey home in peace. As his palms rested against the steering apparatus, something unusual captured his attention. Ahead, an automobile door swung outward, and from it emerged a male figure. Under the subdued illumination of the street lamps, Leonardo observed as the individual gestured toward the pedestrian walkway. Subsequently, without any backward glance, the man re-entered the vehicle, forcefully closed the door, and accelerated away, abandoning something diminutive and stationary behind. Initially, Leonardo questioned his perception. But as the headlights from his vehicle illuminated the forsaken figure, his grasp on the steering wheel intensified. There, motionless, lay a canine. The subsequent actions taken by Leonardo would astonish everyone and permanently transform one's existence. Before continuing with this narrative, please inform us of your geographical location. Should you find these accounts compelling, subscribe to our channel, as we have scheduled another extraordinary narrative for tomorrow. The afternoon solar orb hung low in the Los Angeles skyscape, projecting elongated golden streaks across towering edifices and endless avenues. The metropolitan area resonated with its characteristic vitality, automobiles honking, individuals moving with determination. For Leonardo DiCaprio, however, it all seemed distant, muffled, as if enclosed within a soundproof enclosure. His ebony Tesla moved effortlessly over the sun-scorched asphalt, the tinted window barrier protecting him from the harsh luminosity. The engine emitted a soft, soothing reverberation, filling the cabin with a consistent rhythm. Leonardo had always derived pleasure from operating a vehicle during this period of the day. It represented one of the rare moments he could experience solitude, away from the persistent cameras, away from societal expectations. He had just departed from a charitable gathering, a well-rehearsed sequence of presentations, courteous handshakes, and choreographed expressions of amicability. He comprehended its significance, understood that his presence contributed to raising awareness for worthy causes. Yet these events invariably left him with a peculiar sense of emptiness. A persistent sensation that despite all efforts, fundamental changes remained elusive. He exhaled quietly and loosened his neckwear. The radio transmitted a soft, instrumental melody, something melancholic and remote. Leonardo wasn't attentive to the musical notes, but the tonal quality aligned with his emotional state. The warm sunlight permeated the windshield, blending with the cool air from the air conditioning system. The cityscape blurred past in hues and motion, yet he remained emotionally detached. It was an aesthetically pleasing day, a typical day. Nevertheless, there existed an internal burden within him, a weight without identification. Leonardo decelerated the vehicle to a standstill at the intersection. The roadway ahead extended extensively, vehicles passing swiftly in a hurried cadence. A male cyclist pedaled without urgency along the pedestrian pathway. A collection of visitors posed for photographic documentation near a mural in the distance, nothing extraordinary. Until a black automobile pulled over on the opposing side of the thoroughfare. There existed no substantial reason for Leonardo to direct his attention toward it. This was New York. Individuals parked and departed continuously. However, something compelled him to maintain visual contact with it momentarily longer than necessary. The passenger door opened, and a man emerged. He appeared unremarkable, dark denim attire, a light outerwear, a baseball cap obscuring a portion of his visage. His movements were expeditious, decisive, like someone with a clear objective. And then Leonardo witnessed it. The man approached the rear of the vehicle and opened the back door. There was a brief intermission, a second or two. Then something diminutive exited, or rather, was abandoned. A dog. Leonardo blinked, his grasp on the steering wheel tightening. He anticipated the man would look back, display hesitation, offer a quiet farewell. But there was nothing, no lingering moment, no final glance. The man simply closed the door forcefully. The automobile's tires emitted a slight screeching sound as it distanced itself from the curb, rejoining the flow of traffic. And thus, the dog remained solitary. Leonardo experienced a pressure within his thoracic cavity. The dog remained immobile. It didn't pursue the vehicle, didn't vocalize, didn't express distress. It simply stood there, completely stationary. The traffic signal turned green. A horn sounded behind him. Leonardo clenched his jaw. Two options presented themselves. Continue driving or halt. He hesitated. Looking at the rearview mirror, he observed the dog still in position. Motionless. Another horn signal. With a pronounced exhalation, he applied pressure to the accelerator and moved forward. Momentarily, he considered that conclusion. But something prompted him to check the mirror once more. And what he observed caused his heart to skip a beat. The dog was gazing directly at him. Not imploring, not hopeful, just vacant. Leonardo swallowed with difficulty. He recognized that expression, the countenance of one who had already surrendered. A subdued expletive escaped his lips. And then, in one fluid motion, he directed the vehicle toward the roadside. The Mercedes decelerated smoothly to a stop. For an instant, he simply sat there, hands still gripping the wheel, his respiration slightly intensified. The dog remained stationary. Leonardo closed his eyes briefly, released a deep sigh, and opened the door. The warm afternoon atmosphere contacted his face as he exited. The sunlight bathed everything in a golden hue, the heat ascending gently from the pavement. But Leonardo disregarded all of it. His concentration was directed toward the dog. He traversed the street with deliberate, measured steps. As he approached, he observed more details. The dog was small, its short dark fur, soiled and disheveled. He could discern faint outlines of ribs beneath its slender frame. However, the most disturbing aspect wasn't its physical condition. It was the complete absence of reaction. Leonardo had encountered stray dogs previously. Some fled. Others barked fearfully. This one simply remained. He crouched slightly, attempting to appear less intimidating. "Hey," his voice was gentle, cautious. The dog showed no response. It blinked slowly, as if the surrounding world barely registered. Leonardo hesitated. A moment elapsed. He surveyed the area, wondering if anyone else had noticed, if someone was searching for this dog. But the world continued as if the animal were invisible. The sun reflected off the tall windows of the structures. The light breeze disturbed dry leaves along the sidewalk. The city persisted in motion. But Leonardo couldn't. Something within him constricted. He attempted again. He lowered the car window slightly and called out. No response. The dog didn't flinch, didn't turn its head. It was as if it no longer expected anything from existence. Leonardo's breath caught in his throat. For a moment, it appeared the dog might move. But instead, it lowered its head. As if accepting its fate. Leonardo hesitates. He knows this dog won't flee. It isn't awaiting a second opportunity. It has already surrendered. The warm afternoon breeze carried the scent of asphalt and sun-baked concrete. As Leonardo stood immobile, gazing at the small figure before him, the world moved around him. Automobiles passing by. Pedestrians walking purposefully. But in that moment, it was solely him and the dog. He hesitated. Something about this situation seemed incorrect. He had witnessed abandoned animals previously. Typically, they exhibited restlessness, pacing, barking, running, searching for something. Anything. But this dog, it remained stationary. It didn't survey its surroundings. It didn't whimper or wag its tail. It simply stood there. As if it had been abandoned so frequently that it no longer anticipated any different outcome. Leonardo swallowed with difficulty. His feet moved before his mind fully processed the decision. He crossed the remaining distance carefully, halting just a few feet from the dog. At close range, he observed its thin frame, the dirty fur, the manner in which its ribs were visible beneath the dirt. But what disturbed him most was the expression in its eyes. Vacant. Fatigued. Resigned. It wasn't frightened. It wasn't hopeful. It was merely existing. Leonardo lowered himself into a crouching position, minimizing his stature. Less threatening. Hey. His voice was soft, almost uncertain. The dog blinked slowly, but it didn't raise its head. He frowned. Something about its behavior was abnormal. Not just the silence, not just the immobility. It was the complete absence of reaction. Even a dog that had surrendered should still possess some survival instinct. To run, to flinch, to recoil. But this one, it simply stood there. As if it had already accepted whatever fate awaited it. Leonardo's fingers tightened against his knee. He recognized that feeling. Knew it intimately. He inhaled, resisting the memories pressing against the boundaries of his consciousness, and refocused on the dog. You okay, buddy? He recognized the question was futile, but the words emerged nonetheless. No response. Leonardo looked around. The city hadn't paused for this event. People walked past, absorbed in their personal realities. No one noticed the dog. Had it been standing here for minutes, hours, did anyone care? His jaw tensed. He extended his hand, palm open, providing the dog space to detect his scent. Nothing. It didn't even flinch. Leonardo's stomach contorted. He had observed injured dogs before, witnessed fear, witnessed hesitation. But this was worse. This wasn't fear, this was absence. This was capitulation. The dog's fur was rough, tangled, its legs thin but sturdy. At close range, he could detect scars beneath the dirt, old injuries. Leonardo didn't realize he was holding his breath. His throat constricted, he should simply depart. This wasn't his concern, he had destinations to reach. But his feet remained stationary. And when he looked at the dog again, the words of someone from his past resonated in his mind. Sometimes, the ones who've suffered the most are the ones who never request assistance. Damn it. Leonardo exhaled through his nose. He took a slow step backward, glancing toward his vehicle. If the dog wouldn't approach him, perhaps if he simply waited. He moved toward the Tesla, maintaining a relaxed pace, opened the driver's side door and leaned against it. Then he turned back to the dog, still motionless. Leonardo tapped his fingers against the roof of the car. Not even going to attempt to flee, huh? Nothing. The breeze intensified slightly, disturbing the loose folds of his suit jacket. The sunlight had begun to shift, casting longer shadows along the pavement. He looked at the dog again, it still hadn't moved. His fingers curled against the door. A conflict ensued in his mind. He knew the logical answer. This wasn't his responsibility. There were shelters, rescue organizations, individuals who performed this kind of work professionally. But would anyone even notice this dog before it was too late? Would anyone stop for it as he had? Leonardo ran a hand through his hair and released a long breath. He had made his decision. All right, buddy, let's remove you from here. He returned, this time eliminating the distance completely. The dog didn't resist when he knelt down. Didn't even flinch when Leonardo carefully removed his suit jacket from his shoulders and draped it over the animal's back. The fabric was soft, warm from the day's heat. Still no reaction, no trembling, no tail movement, no resistance. Just acceptance. Leonardo's stomach turned. He carefully placed an arm under the dog's small frame. And that was when he felt it. A shudder, not from cold, from fear. Leonardo froze. He hadn't applied pressure, hadn't gripped roughly. But the dog tensed beneath his touch, as if anticipating something negative, as if it had been injured previously. Leonardo's heart contracted. Slowly, he looked down at the dog's neck. And that's when he observed it. A collar, old, dirty, worn. The tag was still attached, but the name. The name had been scratched off. Had someone attempted to erase this dog's history? Had it belonged to someone who wanted to forget its existence? Leonardo's jaw tightened. This wasn't merely abandonment. This was erasure. And he wouldn't allow it to conclude here. Leonardo's fingers hovered over the dog's collar, his breath slowing as he processed what he was observing. The tag was still present. A small circular metal piece attached to the worn-out fabric. But the name had been scratched off. Not faded, not worn down by time, deliberately removed. Someone had ensured that whatever this dog had been called before, it was now gone. Leonardo swallowed with difficulty. His initial reaction was anger. The kind of slow-burning anger that settled deep within his chest, the kind he rarely allowed to surface. He couldn't comprehend how someone could look into the eyes of an animal, a creature that only knew how to give, and decide to erase it from existence. His hand hovered just above the dog's neck, as if the collar itself bore the weight of the past it had lost. The dog remained still. Leonardo exhaled through his nose, shaking his head slightly. This wasn't about anger. It was about this moment, right now. The dog was here, standing before him, abandoned but still alive. That meant there was still time, still a choice to be made. Leonardo moved slowly, carefully inserting his fingers under the collar. It was loose, almost too large for the dog's thin frame. The buckle was old, rusted at the edges, but it held. He adjusted it slightly. The dog showed no reaction, still no fear, still no resistance. Leonardo didn't know whether that improved the situation or worsened it. He reached out, gently brushing his fingers over the fur beneath the collar. That's when he felt it. Scar tissue, old wounds, small but noticeable. His stomach twisted. Who had inflicted this, and how many times? Leonardo clenched his jaw and allowed his hand to drop to his side. The dog was watching him, not expectantly, not nervously, just watching, as if waiting to see his next action. Leonardo took a deep breath. Then he reached for his jacket, still draped over the dog's back. He carefully adjusted it, wrapping it more snugly around the frail body. The dog blinked, didn't resist, didn't oppose it. Leonardo wasn't certain why, but that made his chest feel heavier. He straightened up, surveying the city. The sun was beginning to descend lower in the sky. The late afternoon glow extended shadows across the pavement, painting everything in soft gold. People passed by, cars traversed the streets. Life continued normally. No one else had noticed the dog, no one had stopped, no one had even looked. Leonardo ran a hand through his hair. He glanced back down. The dog was still standing there, still waiting. For what? For someone to abandon it again? For the world to forget it completely? Leonardo exhaled sharply and made his decision. Come on. He turned and walked toward his car. He walked back to see if the dog followed. He just walked, and then he heard it. A small sound, almost too quiet to notice. The softest shuffle of paws on pavement. His heart contracted. He slowed his steps, but didn't stop. He reached the car and opened the back door. And then for the first time, he turned. The dog was standing a few feet away. It had followed him, not quickly, not eagerly, just enough. Leonardo crouched down again, resting an arm on his knee. It's okay. He motioned toward the open car door. The dog didn't move. Leonardo waited. And for a moment, he wondered if this was the conclusion. If the dog had followed him this far, but couldn't take the next step. If it had spent so much time being abandoned, that it didn't understand how to be taken along. His fingers tapped lightly against the car door. "I'm not going to harm you, buddy." "Nothing." The dog just stood there. Leonardo took a slow breath. Then gently, he removed his jacket from the dog's back and placed it inside the car. He ensured it was open, like a small, safe space. Then he backed away, offering it the choice. The dog looked at him, then at the car, then back at him. Leonardo remained motionless. And then, after what seemed like an eternity, the dog took a single step forward, then another. Then, with a slow, careful movement, it climbed into the car. Leonardo released a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He reached forward, carefully closing the door. The dog didn't flinch, didn't panic. It simply lay down, as if it had been waiting for this moment continuously. Leonardo swallowed the lump in his throat. He moved to the driver's seat, entered, and started the engine. For a moment, he just sat there, hands on the wheel, contemplating this dog. About how easily he could have driven away and never looked back. How close this life had come to being completely erased. Leonardo glanced in the rear-view mirror. The dog was curled up on the seat, not sleeping, not tense, just present. And for the first time, Leonardo thought, what if this wasn't solely about saving the dog? What if this dog was saving him too? He dismissed the thought, put the car into gear, and entered the road. This wasn't concluded yet. This was just the beginning. The dog is temporarily safe, but Leonardo can't dismiss the feeling that it possesses a story that will remain untold. What happened to it? Who erased its past? The residence was silent, the late afternoon light casting soft golden streaks across the wooden floor. Leonardo stood in the doorway, observing the dog as it curled up near the edge of the room. It hadn't explored, hadn't investigated its surroundings, hadn't wagged its tail. It was simply waiting. For what, Leonardo wasn't certain. His gaze lowered to the dog's collar. The name tag was still present, but the letters had been deliberately scratched off. Someone hadn't merely abandoned this dog, they had erased it. Leonardo ran his fingers through his hair, exhaling. What kind of individual would do that? He knelt down slowly, ensuring he didn't startle the dog. He reached out carefully, touching the collar. It was old, worn. His fingertips brushed over the blank tag, feeling the rough, uneven texture where a name once existed. A name someone wanted forgotten. His chest tightened. Who did this to you? The dog blinked but didn't move. Leonardo sighed, leaning back on his heels. He wasn't certain why this disturbed him so significantly. Perhaps because he understood what it felt like to have people attempt to define your life for you. To have your past distorted into something else, to feel like parts of yourself had been removed. He wouldn't allow that to happen to this dog. Not anymore. He stood up and walked to the kitchen. Filling a small bowl with water, he placed it on the floor near the dog. A long moment passed. Then, finally, the dog moved. It stepped forward cautiously and took a sip. Leonardo exhaled. It wasn't substantial, but it was a beginning. And sometimes that was all you needed. The house was silent, the warm glow of early evening filtering through the windows. Leonardo sat on the couch, observing the dog from across the room. It had moved, just barely, but it was something. It had chosen to step forward, to drink, to exist here, in this moment. Leonardo leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You're safe, buddy." The dog blinked but didn't look away. It was the longest it had maintained his gaze. Leonardo had witnessed this kind of hesitation before, not in animals, but in people. Those who had been hurt excessively. Those who had learned not to trust too readily. He moved slowly, lowering himself to the floor. The dog tensed, just slightly. Leonardo remained still. "I'm not going to harm you." His voice was soft, steady. He extended a hand, palm up, waiting. The dog watched him. For an extended moment, it didn't move. Then, so cautiously it was almost imperceptible, it leaned forward. Its nose barely contacted Leonardo's fingers, a second, a moment. Then it withdrew. Leonardo smiled, just slightly. It wasn't substantial, but it was trust, the very first step. And sometimes that was all you needed. Morning sunlight streamed through the large windows of Leonardo's home, casting a warm glow over the wooden floors. The world outside was already active. Cars humming in the distance, birds singing in the trees. But inside, everything was still. Leonardo sat on the couch, a cup of coffee in his hand. His gaze drifting toward the dog. It was watching him, not nervously, not cautiously, just watching. It had slept near the doorway, curled up in the same careful position as before, never fully relaxing, never stretching out. As if it wasn't certain it belonged here yet. Leonardo sipped his coffee. "You hungry?" The dog didn't react. Leonardo set his cup down and stood. He moved to the kitchen, grabbed another bowl, and filled it with food he had acquired late last night. Something simple, but adequate. He placed it on the floor, then stepped back, and waited. The dog looked at the bowl, looked at Leonardo. Then, slowly, it stood up. Leonardo remained still. The quiet hum of the morning settled over Leonardo's house. The dog had finished eating. Now, it sat near the couch, watching him, not out of fear, not out of hesitation, but with something different, something closer to understanding. Leonardo sipped his coffee, allowing the warmth to wake him up. It had been a long night, not just because of the dog, but because of the call. The voice on the other end. "I know about the dog. It's not the first time they've done this." Leonardo hadn't ceased thinking about those words, who was responsible? And why did they erase the dog's past? His phone vibrated. He picked it up. Unknown number. Again. Leonardo answered. "Yeah," a pause. Then the same voice from last night. "Still have the dog?" Leonardo's jaw tightened. "Yeah," another pause. "Meet me in 1 hour. I'll send the location." Leonardo exhaled slowly. "Why should I trust you?" The voice was calm. "Because I'm trying to stop this. And if you care about that dog, you should too." A text arrived. The line went dead. Leonardo lowered the phone. His gaze drifted to the dog. It still wasn't afraid of him. Still wasn't eager either. But something had shifted. Something small. Leonardo ran a hand over his face. He didn't know what he was about to encounter. But one thing was clear. The past wasn't finished with this dog yet. And neither was he. The man sighed. "I've been tracking this operation for months, but without proof no one listens." "You? You found one of their failures. That means you have something they don't want exposed." Leonardo glanced at his car, at the dog sitting quietly in the back seat. A discarded life. And now someone might want to erase it completely. His voice was low, steady. "Does it have a name?" The man hesitated, then quietly. "Rocky," Leonardo's breath caught. "Rocky." He looked back at the dog again. It didn't react. It didn't flinch. But something about the name felt right. Like it had always been there, waiting to be spoken. Leonardo exhaled. "Not anymore." The man frowned. Leonardo turned back. His decision already made. Whatever they tried to erase, I'm giving it back. The name, the life, everything. The man studied him for a prolonged moment, then nodded. "Then you better be prepared, because they're not going to appreciate that." Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.